we should better consider the ideological processes in these countries. Apparently, these countries don't want to listen to us, although we repeat it from day to day, and they apparently decided to ignore the obligations that they took over as they became members of the UN. And now my favorite subject, the double standards, which I would call it's different. We all remember there have been concerns in the Western Europe, and first and foremost in France, by the laws against foreign agents that were developed in our country in response to the actions taken by the West and US, which were aimed against the Russian Federation. There was hysteria in France that you can't even imagine. All sorts of things were said and published about us several years ago, that we departed allegedly from the liberties and freedoms that we invented, something new, and that nothing of the sort could happen to them because such a terrible thing allegedly could only happen in our country. Let me emphasize, in our country, the legislation about foreign agents was developed in response to what we saw since 2022, the legal arbitrariness against the citizens of Russia, and Russian public figures and journalists. When the United States applied their legislation that was developed in the later 30s of the past century. Now we are in 2025. Dear friends, I don't know whether you are going to be glad or sad. Probably you'll find it funny. From the 1st of October 2025, that is from yesterday, in France, there will be a public digital register where data about French citizens and French entities should be posted, which are engaged in promoting the interests of a foreign state. And since January 2026, those who are included in the register should 4 times a year report about the activities and fill in the documents about how they influence the decision makers. Applause to the LEC Palace. As far as we understand, this instrument was developed in accordance with the law adopted in 2024 about prevention of foreign interference, which is aimed at, I quote, prevention of external influence on the public opinion in the country, end of quote. Apparently it was, its prototype was the U.S. Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1938. Probably we wouldn't have commented on it because it's about the domestic French legislation. But there is a but. You know, there is one fundamental thing. We all remember the mass hysteria in European countries, and particularly in France, as our country developed its legal framework in order to deal with foreign agents. During the discreditation campaign aimed against our efforts, and it was a true discrimination campaign launched by the major French media, the Russian legislation in this field was demonized. I wonder, are we going to hear something similar about the French law and register I've mentioned from the French media? And I'll do everything in my power to remind the French public opinion how the Russian laws adopted in response to the use of laws on foreign agents applied against us, and in which French media they were criticized. And I wonder whether we are going to hear something from the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe? Are we going to hear anything in response to this document in different formats of the EU and NATO? And third, we all remember how the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of France and the Élysée Palace in social networks pointed to every aspect of life of our civil society. Are they going to write something about themselves? Are they going to criticize what's going on in their country? Well, I really doubt it. I have no doubt that the priority target of the new legislation will be those citizens of France who feel affinity to Russia, and sound politicians and experts who doubt the correctness of the policy conducted by the French authorities against Russia. Almost every positive statement about Russia is labeled as Kremlin propaganda. It's obvious for us that French authorities deliberately prepare the public opinion of the country for long-term opposition to Russia, and they have monopoly on the public opinion and zero tolerance to a different point of view, which is different from the official opinion in France. This new register is just another step on this dangerous path. And let me assure you, we will not only follow the situation, but we're going to enjoy every piece of news on this occasion, because this occasion was given to us by the French authorities back in the time. Tomorrow, on the 3rd of October, marks 35 years since the so-called reunification of Germany, which was officially declared after the Treaty on the establishment of the German unity between the two parts of Germany entered into force in 1990. It was signed on the 31st of August 1990. The country was divided after World War II. After the end of the Cold War, Germany couldn't find back its unity. Thanks to the solid and principled position of our country, let me remind you that the USSR was against the separation of Germany. Do the Germans know about it? No, they know something different. Then it seemed to us that over the 45 years, Germans drew a lesson and had the right for sovereignty in a status of a single state. Unfortunately, Germany didn't pass this maturity test. It's hardly possible to speak about sovereignty and independent policy about the modern Germany. It might be paradoxical, but both parts of Germany were much more independent when taking the decisions than the modern-day Germany. The Germany doesn't even have a full-fledged constitution right now. It remains a split country, which remains to be split into the first and second sort citizens. Instead of reunification of the split population, the West German authorities chose the path to colonize the former Eastern Germany. They destroyed the successful industry and agriculture of the Eastern Germany. Many countries and many towns and villages were depopulated. Who live there are pensioners who are lied by the official propagation. According to the propaganda, they gave their life for serving the totalitarian communist regime. The Eastern Germans earn only 76% of what their Western colleagues earn. Do you remember how the Western propaganda said in the early 90s and in late 80s that they would live better after they fall under the influence of NATO and the EU. They said investment would immediately start flowing. Well, we see the results today. According to the German statistics, over the 35 years of the so-called Wunder, the population of Eastern areas was reduced from 17 million to 12.4 million, without taking into account the mass inflow of migrants after 2015. Saxony-Anhalt lost 26% and Thuringia lost 20% of the population. It's no doubt that it's no surprise that in Eastern Germany voters vote for the Alternative for Germany party that was declared by as extremist party by the authorities. Eastern Germans who were born long after reunification of Germany don't feel themselves as full-fledged citizens of their country. Even official propaganda can't conceal it any longer. The official report about the state of German unity, this report was published in 2024, and it states that among the managers of different levels, those originating from the eastern regions only amount to 12%. Only 12.1%. In science, the figure is even lower, 8.3%, and in economy, it's a shameful figure of 4.5%. And among the commander of the Bundeswehr, the amount equals 0. That's what I call reunification. Prime Minister of Saxony, Michael Kretschmer, lamented that among the soldiers there are mostly those who originate from the east, while the most profitable orders are placed in the western industrial plants. In this backdrop, the constant attempts of Germans to teach other countries and peoples how they should live look absurd. They should better care about themselves. They should better apply their human rights standards to themselves. Another good anniversary, 25 years ago, 25 years ago, the Declaration on Strategic Partnership was signed between the Republic of India and Russia. It was a milestone in the development of relations between Moscow and New Delhi, based on mutual respect, trust, and equal account for the interests of each other and the wish to promote a united, non-confrontation agenda. Since then, we have reached the level of a special privileged strategic partnership. This year, we celebrate the 15 years anniversary of this strategic partnership. We have a dynamically developing trade and economic cooperation, close cultural and humanitarian ties, and mutual support in international arena. We have no doubt that time-tested friendship between Russia and India will strengthen and further on contribute to a prosperity of two states and contributing to the stability in Asia and in the world.
We received questions regarding the parade. It's an internal event. Nevertheless, on September the 20th, Belgrade saw a military parade titled "The Power of Unity," dedicated to the Day of Serbian Unity. We see it as a demonstration of determination and the ability of Serbia to defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity. Russia is prepared to continue with facilitating defense capabilities of the country. On September 23rd through 27th, New York received a Russian delegation on international youth cooperation led by the deputy head of the Federal Agency for Youth Affairs, Yegor Litvinenko. The delegation was consisted from the representatives of relevant departments of the Foreign Ministry of Russia, as well as the Council of Young Diplomats, the Russian movement, the movement of the First, and the Association of Volunteer Centers. During the statements at the plenary and the working sessions of the session of high level dedicated to the 30 years of World Program of Action for Youth, Russian delegates shared best practices in youth politics. On the sidelines, there were bilateral meetings with the delegation of Burkina Faso, Venezuela, China, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Uzbekistan as the leadership of permanent missions of Armenia, India, and Kazakhstan to the UN. Russia actively reinforces the efforts to provide humanitarian aid to African countries, even through the international organizations. The key channel is the World Food Organization to follow up on the outcomes of the first Russia-Africa summit in 2019. Our country, every year since 2020, have been paying an additional contribution worth $10 million to the WFO to provide humanitarian assistance to African states. In 2024, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Namibia, Niger, and Republic of Sudan received aid through this channel. On October the 8th, through the port of Beira, Mozambique, we expect supplies for Zambia of consignment of Russian food worth 648 tons, yellow split peas. Besides, until the end of the year, we plan to have a consignment of high vitamin sunflower seed oil, some 94 tons. Russia will continue supporting our partners in Africa. One more important topic. Within the 8th session of the Artek Child Camp, as well as dedicated to the 100th anniversary of the Center and the public diplomacy, a child program, BRICS World, the World of the Future, took place. It brought together more than 150 children from BRICS plus countries. The main aim is to establish a platform of a new format for cooperation and joint work of talented children and teenagers. The main event of the program is the creation of the Child Declaration of the World. It's a document prepared by the participants of this project, and it is addressed to the world community with call on cooperation, mutual respect, seizure of conflicts, and joint responsibility for the future of the planet. The final version was approved by 3,200 participants of this session from 76 countries. It is planned to be spread as an official document during the 80th session of the UNGA. Under the instruction of the Russian president, St. Petersburg on October 8th and 9th will host the first event within the Russian International Creative Seasons. The symposium will be participated by representatives of federal bodies, international business community, and experts. The program is divided into 3 blocks: society, technology, and global cooperation. The latter is supported by the Foreign Ministry. This forum is a response to the issues and challenges of modern times from various spheres of life, and both public and political, that people in Russia and the countries of the global majority care about. In Russia, they see an alternative to neoliberal pseudo-values. They destroy national sovereignties, perennial foundations of great civilizations. I'm sure that the forum will help develop contacts and expert discussions on relevant issues for the future of the whole humanity. This event will be a meeting of like-minded people who want to build a more just world. There's one more announcement, useful for you in my opinion. This is an announcement of the International Conference on Creative Economy. St. Petersburg on October 8th and 9th will host the first event within the Russian International Creative Season, the International Conference on Creative Economy. It is organized by the Agency of Strategic Initiatives together with the administration of St. Petersburg and the Roscongress Foundation. The conference is expected to be participated by some 1,500,000 delegates from 30 countries, including the CIS, SCO, and BRICS countries. The event will bring together representatives from state bodies, business representatives, and experts. The key topics of the conference cover the future of the creative economy until 2040. The upcoming event is a unique platform for global international cooperation and integration of Russian creative economy into the world market. What is the creative economy? For the first time, the terms creative economy and creative industry were introduced at the turn of the 21st century. Back then, the list of sectors of the creative economy included a number of and areas of activities like advertisement, marketing, architecture, design, including fashion, software development, publishing, and media, and some others. In 2024, the federal law on development of creative industries in the Russian Federation was passed. This law, besides the above-mentioned areas, outlined a number of creative spheres based on historic and cultural heritage, including arts and crafts. This is something I like very much. We invite all the journalists, foreign journalists accredited in Russia, to participate in covering this event. This is not discrimination, but I just think that foreigners will be more interested in this. As per usual, the link will be available in the text of the briefing. I am ready to take a question. Is the International Affairs Journal with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. Good afternoon. Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, said and acknowledged that there is a conflict with Russia of a new kind. I would like to quote, "We didn't want this. It's sometimes strange to realize that it is a new type of war, but it's still a war," he said. What can you say about this? I don't see anything new here. This is just a fact. The only thing I don't like is that they did not want it. Who wanted it then? If the situation in Ukraine wasn't arranged by Warsaw as well for the last 10 years, it was not only Warsaw, sometimes individually or collectively together with other NATO countries, or sometimes through Warsaw. It happened in various combinations, but the role of Warsaw in this was leading. There is no doubt about it. Warsaw regularly, at all levels, in all senses, participated in the situation in Ukraine, so that this situation is exacerbated. I cannot agree that they did not want it. If they say this, they have to understand that they lie. Now, they destabilized the situation in Ukraine. They provoked the crisis. On their territory, they trained militants for Maidan. They influenced political and internal political decision-making in Ukraine. They provided political concepts and their implementation on the territory of Ukraine. They disregarded our concerns and warnings. They have financed and continued doing so. They finance, but how did he say, the hybrid war, the war of a new type? They provide armaments and weapons to Ukraine, turn the blind eye to participation of their mercenaries in hostilities. They respond very emotionally sometimes to historic issues without understanding that they have direct ties with the current situation. For some reason, they think that neo-Nazi gang in Ukraine has appeared, and for some reason Ukrainians have to pay tribute to the victims of the Volyn massacre. You cannot glorify people who committed crimes against many people, including the Poles, and on the other side to honor the memory of victims. That cannot happen, neither theoretically nor practically. We remember the heroic deeds of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The decisions of the Nuremberg Tribunal cannot be revised. The memory is sacred for us. Collaborations will never be glorified. We proceed from these ideas. We honor the memory of victims. We preserve the memory of heroes. We do not try and glorify collaborationists. We held national courts against collaborationists, but it happened otherwise in Ukraine, and it was sponsored in many cases by Warsaw. But Warsaw cannot understand the origin of the hatred to historic facts in the Kiev regime. This dichotomy does not lead to anything good. This, by the way, shows the contradiction that the Prime Minister of Poland said when he said that they did not want war. But how come they did not want it? They had been preparing for it. They had provoked it. They thought it would went the other way. That is the fact. They thought that given all the circumstances, a very quick victory would be ensured. That's what we have to talk about. But they did want it. There is no doubt about it. Thank you very much. Thanks to you. Let us move on. Is Ria Novosti with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. If I may, we have two questions today. The first one. I'm sorry, Christina, I couldn't find my red jacket, but I can see it on you today. Yes, if you're not against it, I allowed myself to wear it today. So question one. On September 22, Vladimir Putin promoted an initiative providing for the sides to continue complying with the restrictions under the New START treaty until after 2026. Is this an invitation to prolong the treaty? This is not really so. The Russian side did not want to find creative ways to partly prolong the New START treaty as a legally binding document. The treaty itself does not provide for an option to prolong it for the second time. This would require new negotiations and hypothetical agreements, but the New START treaty will only be suspended. We enshrined it legally, and some issues have not been settled. To get rid of obstacles, we need more time and more solid foundation in relations between Russia and the US. We are early on in our normalization. These factors should be accounted for. But in the life cycle of the New START treaty will finish in February 2026. According to the reasons put forward by President of the Russian Federation, we propose acting beyond this framework of the treaty. We're talking only about preserving, after February 2026, those voluntary self-restrictions under which Russia acts even now. It is viable only under the condition that the US side will go on with status quo in this area and won't violate restrictions on the deterrent potentials. This would help both nuclear powers their responsibility in ensuring security and the prevention of arms race. That would be good for all the international community as well.
Thank you so much. And if the second question, if I may, you may. Foreign Minister of Czechia, Mr. Lipovsky, said the government of the Czech Republic took the decision to ban the entry to its territory through international airports for the possessors of Russian diplomatic and service passports. Madam Zakharova, could you comment on it, please? Well, you know, we've seen these statements and these reports. We took note of them. But up until now, we haven't received any official notifications from the Czech side. You wouldn't believe it. So we have no details about these unfriendly actions so far. And I would like to draw your attention that the Czech authorities imposed strong restrictions in this field a couple of years ago. You might know about it. The Russian diplomats, apart from the members of the embassies in Prague, don't receive any visas. So probably it's more of a PR campaign ahead of the parliamentary elections, which will take place from the 3rd to the 4th of October, that is tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And apparently they needed an information campaign which would simulate their active activities. Well, seriously speaking, Prague should understand that the Russian side will always respond to an unfriendly campaign and steps. For example, the embassy of Czech Republic in Moscow might face difficulty with sending their experts over to Moscow in order to resolve immediate technical issues. Is Izvestia with us? Yes, good afternoon. We have just one question today. What do you think, what would be the next steps of the international sports community after the rights of Russian Paralympic athletes have been restored? Well, we definitely welcome the decision of the General Assembly of the Intergovernmental Paralympic Committee about the full restoration of the membership of the Paralympic Committee of Russia in this world organization. We see that it was just a victory of common sense that most delegates of the General Assembly of the International Paralympic Committee took this decision. It is a return to the true ideals of sports without any forms of discrimination for political and national reasons. Now Russian Paralympic athletes will be able to participate with their flags, with the anthem, and with other state symbols in the Paralympic Games and in competitions in various sports, be it athletics, swimming, powerlifting, stage hockey, or bullseye shooting. We hope the restrictions will be soon lifted for Russian athletes for all Paralympic sports, and they will be able to perform in the Paralympic, to compete in the Paralympic Games in Italy in 2026. We hope the International Olympic Committee and international federations for other sports will demonstrate common sense and provide all countries and all athletes equal opportunities for them to compete in a fair struggle based on the acts of international law which regulate the activities. Thank you so much. Is Artie with us? Artie Balkan. Yes, good afternoon. The Serb public community follows the developments related to the U.S. sanctions against the Serb oil industry and oil sector. The Russian side has a majority stake in the oil field in the country. In January this year, when sanctions were imposed against NIS, Sergei Lavrov said this oil company could not be nationalized. So the question is, to what extent is Moscow now engaged in communication with Belgrade and with Washington regarding the future of the company, taking into account that the U.S. sanctions, according to the official reports, expire on the 8th and 9th of October. Thank you. Well, I can only say that representatives of the Russian side are in close dialogue with the Serb partners and dialogues and are to get jointly engaged in talks with the U.S. in order to settle the situation, taking into account the interests of the Russian investor and the key provisions of the agreement between the government of our country and the government of Serbia on cooperation in the oil and gas sphere from the 25th of January 2008. If we have any further details, we'll provide them to you. Thank you. Is Media Corporation of China with us? Yes, good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. I have two questions today. The first is as follows. In China, the 8-day-long holiday period started, which unites two holidays, the Day of Establishment of the People's Republic of China and the Mid-Autumn Festival. Usually it is a driver of internal and international tourism and encourages consumer activities. How would you evaluate the scale and potential of the Chinese tourism economy? Well, first, allow me to use this opportunity and offer the peoples of China my best congratulations and best wishes on the occasion of these two holidays. I would like to wish them all the best. The long holidays traditionally attract many tourists. It's one of the most favorite travel periods in China. Well, I'll share my, well, not impressions, but my knowledge about the Chinese holiday. There is such a notion as a triad of Chinese holidays, and one of the pillars is the cycle of autumn holidays we're talking about today. And indeed, many use this opportunity in order to travel to China through China. Well, I'm not sure. I have to evaluate the tourist potential, the potential of the tourist area. It's probably for our Chinese colleagues to do it, and it's for us to use these opportunities. Especially now that there are lots of opportunities for this today, which is to which only contributes the decision about the non-visa travel regime for our tourists in particular. There are lots of places and sites to visit with long traditions, with beautiful natural landscapes, with exquisite cuisine. We have such a notion as Golden Autumn, and in China, for example, there is a notion of the holiday of red leaves. It is a literal translation from Chinese, and it is a very special period in the year cycle of natural cycle and the holiday cycle. So there are many things to look at and to see. So I can only wish to our Chinese friends who celebrate these holidays all the best, and I wish new impressions, new bright impressions to those who travel to China these days. Thank you. And my second question, if I may. President of the US, Donald Trump, recently on the 29th of September said he was going to impose 100% import duty on non-US movies. In Truth Social, he said, movie-making businesses have been stolen from the US by other countries, just like stealing candy from a baby. It's the second time he's been raising this issue after his statement of the 4th of May. What's your comment on that? How can it influence the global movie industry? Well, on the one hand, many people smiled when they read this piece of news, because US representatives have been spoken for many decades about the power of Hollywood, and it was justified. It is indeed a very strong industry, a strong business, a great established system for promotion and production. So it is a real grand empire, movie empire. But on the other hand, if we looked into it, if we look into these details of the statement, I understand, I realize his concern. I believe he's talking about the attempts of the US authorities to return the production of holiday movies which are now produced abroad, not in the territory of the US. I think a lot has been already said on this occasion. The ultra-liberal agenda destroys, erodes the US movie industry, but I think he's primarily talking about the production process, which was located outside the US. I think it's just another sphere where the incumbent US authorities want to make America great again. So I'm not sure there is something for me to comment on here. I only decipher the sense which I see in these statements. All the rest, let's leave it to the critics, to observers, to those, to the experts of the sphere, or just fans, for them to give their assessments to specific movies and the general state of the film industry. I can only add what is quite obvious. We've been talking about for a long time the movie industry in the West and the culture on the whole, and certain arts in particular were under the burden of the ultra-liberal agenda, the extremist ideology of LGBT with all additional letters. This distorted idea about the human rights, manipulation of census, promotion of political narratives which were favorable or attractive in terms of internal political situation in the US. A twisting with historical facts and presenting the false facts in the whole.
Мы говорили о том, что это не приведет к развитию кинематографа, и не только кинематографа, но и в целом культуры, искусства, что это приведет к обратному, не только к кризису в этой сфере. Этот кризис станет отражением кризиса в обществе, кризиса в душах людей, в их сердцах.